Welcome to One Mission, the podcast, and we have a very important and unique guest today, our convention president, Dr. Clint Pressley. I'll go ahead and doctor you because
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're working on one, so I'll go ahead and do that. Clint's not new to Alabama. We'll talk about that later, but he was elected last June at our convention, and he has assumed the leadership and done a stellar job thus far in representing us. He's an exemplary type pastor, a good expository preacher, has done well everywhere he's ever been in the pastorate. And we admire and appreciate him, and we're grateful that you're here, Clint, to be able to join.
Thank you, Dr. Lance. Man, that was a nice intro. Thank you.
Well, I got it from one of your family members. But,
like my mother. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Mothers do a good job, don't they?
Yeah.
Clint, we always want to hear testimonies. Baptists and evangelicals love testimonies.
Right.
So
right.
If you don't mind sharing your conversion experience and also your call to ministry, that would really be a good foundation for our discussion.
All right, great. Yeah, I came up in a church going home. We went to Presbyterian Church, PCUSA Church. So theologically, I never really heard the gospel except in the Apostles' Creed. And they made the mistake one summer hiring an associate pastor for the summer who was an evangelical. He was at Columbia Bible College from Columbia, South Carolina. And at camp, when I was 11 years old, he shared the gospel with me and asked that I want to give my life to Christ. And I said, yes, I do. And so at 11 years old, from this liberal church, I actually gave my life to Christ and was converted. And very soon after, like right after, I wanted to be a preacher. I wanted to be some kind of preacher. I didn't know what kind until I was 15, and we visited First Baptist Church, Roanoke, Virginia, with some friends, and I heard preaching, and that Baptist preaching, I never heard anything like that. It was amazing. So I thought, well, that's what I want to be, that kind of preacher. I didn't know what the Baptists believed. And then I ended up joining the Baptist Church and then learning what it means to actually be a Southern Baptist, and then here I am.
Well, good. You went through the transfer portal then to come to us.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that testimony. And their mistake in calling that staff member was God's providence.
Right.
That's very good. And you and your wife, I know, have been married for a while and have children. Talk about that for a few moments.
Yeah, I met Connie out at Southwestern Seminary. We got married in 1992, and we couldn't have children. And so we ended up adopting 7 years later in 1999, two little brothers. One was 6 months old and the other was 22 months old. And we got them in 99, and really it was a blessing from the Lord. You get two kids when you couldn't have children. So it was just a great thing. Unfortunately, in God's dark providence, my youngest son died a little over a year ago from a drug overdose. That was a pretty tough time for us. Yes. My oldest son, he and his wife have just recently had their first child. So we're newly minted grandparents.
Right. And Clint, you and your wife did an extraordinary job of being an example during that time of suffering. And I know that was worse than a gut punch. That was just
it was something. Yeah, it was really. I got a call on a Saturday night at about 8:30. A Baptist preacher, you're getting ready for the next day. And really someone had called to express their condolences about my son dying. And we had not heard that.
Oh.
And so the it was an old girlfriend of his. And the poor girl, I felt so sorry for her, even as we were getting this news about Nate. So that sort of started. And, just a beautiful thing about the church and about Christian people, how they get around you, how they walk with you. Man, I just love the church. I mean, the church was so good to us. And the Lord's been kind through every bit of it. He just has been so kind through all of that.
Well, before you made your return to North Carolina, you were with us here at Dolphin Way and Mobile.
Right. Yeah. Man, I loved it. I thought I would stay there forever. I love that church.
Well, you did a splendid job there. Talk about the years of your pastorate and just lead us through the pastorates you've had.
Okay, so through all of the pastorates? Okay. So I went to my first church in Southwest Mississippi because I didn't want to be in seminary anymore. And Connie's folks were in a nearby town, and it was a desperate church. Nobody would go there. So they hired me and Connie. I was 23, had been married 6 weeks, and didn't know a thing. They would pay me $150 a week. I could live in the parsonage, and if I could make money somewhere else, I could do it. And so I drove a dump truck, coached football, substitute teacher. I did everything. And pretty soon found out I don't know anything. I love Jesus. I love the Bible. I love people. I don't know how to get them all together.
Yeah.
So I started back to seminary at New Orleans Seminary. It was 140 miles away. So every Tuesday, back then you had Mondays off to do ministry. Every Tuesday I would drive down and drive back home Tuesday through Friday. So for 3 years, I did, 280 miles a day to get my degree, but finally got my degree and served 2 churches in Mississippi, came to Charlotte to be the associate pastor at Hickory Grove, did that 5 years. And then Dolphin Way called us. Dolphin Way had been through a hard time. It seems like churches got to get real desperate to call me. They've been through a hard time and called us. And I first turned them down because I was scared. I mean, the church had just all but collapsed.
Right.
And man, there was police lined up around there were rotten columns. It was terrible. Yes. And so I thought, I'm not leaving Hickory Grove to go to that. And man, I couldn't sleep. After telling them no, I couldn't get it together. Finally, my wife said, you need to call those people back. So I called the chairman of the committee. They had already moved on to another person. I don't know who. I called and said, look, I need to talk to y'all. So just put it pause. Whoever you're talking to, I got to talk to you people so I can get some rest. So we ended up talking and, we agreed to go there. And it seems weird looking back now because I felt like I was giving up a whole lot to go there. But truthfully, it was the greatest. Like, I don't know of another period of my life where it was so much fun being in Mobile, being at Dolphin Way. The church was restored. The Lord was kind. People joined. And I love the town. I love the church. In fact, I'm going back there in November to preach at their 120th celebration. And, Lee Merck is doing such a great job there now.
He is.
He's doing a tremendous job. And I'm just very thankful for the time we spent there. I loved it there. It was really probably, if I look at 32 years of ministry, that period was the most enjoyable there at Dolphin Way in Mobile.
Yeah. We just hope your church members aren't listening right now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, but this is real fun, too. I'm really having a great time.
Yeah. Well, talk about where you are now, coming back.
Okay. So we came back to Hickory Grove. This is my home church. This is where I became a Baptist.
Yeah.
And when I came here, the former pastor was ready to transition. So we came in 2010, and I became the pastor then in 2011, January 2011. And it's been, while several churches that I served were sort of rebuilds, this has been like a refitting. It's been unusual. It's been a really, really, I feel like I really had to work. I had all my fun at Dolphin Way, having to work here.
Right.
It's been like trying to refit a battleship at sea without coming into the dry dock. So changing the systems, changing how we do discipleship, changing how we understand church growth, changing how we look at church membership, changing what it means to be a doctrinally sort of robust church. Church has always been conservative, but to actually take hold of some of those things we hold dear, doing that without sinking the thing was really been sort of a hit and miss and learning how to do it. Thankfully, the Lord's kept our church together. The church is doing real well just by his own doing. But it's been something. And finally now I'm almost 15 years in, and I'm starting to feel like I might be the pastor here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that candor. As you would imagine, most people who are in churches like yours, the candor factor is not always given, and it helps those who are listening who might be going through some difficult times.
Oh, man.
Adjustments. That's just a heartwarming and encouraging testimony. We appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
Well, there was a big mantle, a gavel given to you back in June as president of the SBC, and we're delighted you're in that role. We look forward to the future. You've already major mark. I was at the most recent executive committee meeting at the
Right.
executive committee meeting in Nashville. I have to say that both you and Jeff did sterling jobs. Jeff was as statesmanlike as I've ever heard
Yeah.
anybody be, and you
Right.
hit the right tone of encouragement that we need out of our leaders.
Right.
I've often said you can't appeal to people on guilt. You appeal to people on being their best in terms of God's love. And
Yeah.
you did an excellent job at that.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
And I
Rick.
know you're looking forward to the convention. Tell us about the theme and what some features that you can share. Now, there may be
Yeah,
some-
sure. Anything. That I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I've settled on Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23 and 24. The whole passage speaks of holding fast to the confession of our hope, and then continuing to spur one another, prod one another on to love and good works. So I'm trying to help our convention refocus and see of the two rails that we run on as a train. One is that our confession of faith, the Baptist faith, the message, and the other is our cooperation, how we do things really well together. And those are two beautiful things. Man, the genius of the cooperation, we need to turn back around and say, that's really good. I mean, last week I went to Charlottesville, Virginia, and helped with the IMB commissioning 70 new missionaries. Okay, so thinking those kids, and they're kids to me now,
Right.
they're going out and they're going to be supported by this convention.
Right.
And then now with Helene that's come through and caused such widespread devastation, we're 3 days removed from that, and there are tractor trailers headed there with food, supplies, water, men going with chainsaws and shovels. I mean, that's an army of people going to work that does not exist without our cooperative program. So they're two really good things for us to celebrate, and that'll be kind of what I want to do in the coming days is point to the degree I can, our convention toward how good it is to actually be a Southern Baptist.
Well, that's very intentional, and we appreciate it. The cooperation factor in terms of disaster relief, I've long since coined the disaster relief, the yellow shirt army, and they look at it when they go in. I mean, it's almost like small squads going here and there.
Right.
I applaud you on those two emphases. I think they are and will resonate with Southern Baptists, so thank you for it. And as you look toward June, would there be some featured speakers that you can talk about, or is that a little bit premature?
That'll be mostly the pastors' conference, and we'll have all of the featured speakers within the convention itself. I hope to trim down some of the time, take away one of the evenings. Was that Tuesday night? We had that session there. Try to do away with that, and make sure that that it's a little more efficient this year. Hopefully.
Right. You still have the convention sermon, and I can't remember who is up for that.
I can't remember. I think that's Tony. Is that Tony Wolf?
It is.
It's Tony Wolf that's doing that, right? Yeah, that's your colleague.
Yes.
And I'll have a message, and then Tony Wolf will have it.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was searching for in my mind. That's about the second time in my service that an executive director of a state convention has done that. Tony
I know it.
Extraordinary young man. I've really grown to appreciate him, and he'll do a splendid job.
Oh, yeah, he'll do a great job.
And I know that there will, some things we can't talk about negatives. We shouldn't talk about negatives, but there are some positives coming out of the executive committee that I'm really appreciative of. It appears to me that Jeff Orge has taken the lead and certainly giving us the kind of leadership, outstanding statesman-like leadership, as I've already indicated, that we need for the future. And you two are working in tandem, and I certainly appreciate that.
Well, I hope to, part of what I do here, it's a volunteer position. I have 1 year, maybe two, who knows? Yeah. And I want to help Jeff. Jeff, this is his career, and he's going to be here long term. He is the one that's going to help sort of get our executive committee back on 2 feet squarely. I want to help him do that. I want to help our convention bring the heat down a little bit, focus on what we do, and let's work to get over the hump of these issues that we have. We'll get there. We just have to keep pressing toward it.
Well, I'm encouraged more than I've been in recent years, and we've had some almost PTSD moments in the executive committee. It's
Whew.
really been tough. But like you say,
Right.
that's a good term to use, bring the heat down. And
Yeah.
perhaps we will not have as many motions from the floor. Last year, we had an enormous, maybe a record-breaking number of motions coming on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, well, certainly would be. And maybe the resolutions committee, well, their role, of course, is significant. Maybe that will go well.
Yeah.
I see your library right behind you, and I'm real appreciative of it. It's first of all, it's well organized, and it's
It's a Dewey Decimal System.
yes,
Yeah.
mine was that way for a while, and then it got undecimaled. But in a move we made up in our new location.
Yeah.
But I thought at first that's a false background, but now I'm noticing no, the lighting's too good. And tell us a little bit about your study habits and your preaching plan. Would you mind doing that?
No, sure. Yeah. I kind of have two tracks. I run on one for what I do in the pulpit in my own study. And then other, much like you, as I think you probably are even a more avid reader than I am. A lot of the reading that I do is for my own entertainment or edification at home. So I try to reserve each evening anywhere from 8 or 9 to 10 o'clock in the evening just to read. I'll just read. It's mostly history, mostly biography.
Yeah,
That's sort of the genres that I find myself. They're actually
love
great
it.
leadership books, that's where
Yeah,
you get the leadership. It's not in a leadership book, but in the story of, someone that has led under adversity.
that's right.
So I spend most of my time reading there, but my own study for my devotional life is, of course, from 5 to 6:30 each morning, just reading and praying, try to go through the Bible if I can twice each year and write down my prayers. And then for sermon prep, I'll try to do that each day of the week here. Find some time, even on Monday. Like today, I was just writing it out. If I can just start, I'll just write it out on a notebook and look at it. Really don't do much good on Monday except start getting them in my mind and heart.
Yeah.
Tuesday, it'd be an open door kind of study. I'm studying, but people are coming in and out.
Oh, yeah.
Wednesday is for Wednesday. Thursday is closed door study. Friday, I don't pick it up. Saturday from 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 6, supper time, I will write my manuscript out, write it all the way out. And then I'll eat breakfast for supper. Connie fixes me breakfast for supper every Saturday night. And then Sunday at 4, I get up and go over it for 2 hours, read over it, try to internalize, and then preach it 3 times Sunday morning.
Mm. That's a very well developed and a very well organized plan. Now, Saturdays from 2 to 6, is that true even in football season?
I played football my whole life, like from
Yeah.
the time I was in first grade till I graduated college.
Yeah.
And I love to play it. I don't like to watch it. I don't
Wow.
ever watch it. I don't follow a team. I don't watch. I don't know who the players are. I don't know the coaches. I'm terribly ignorant, and it's awfully embarrassing when I'm having conversation with men in our church.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I guess you could talk about pickleball.
I'm not talking about pickleball either. That's embarrassing.
Well, now, obviously, you do have a physical workout routine. Would you share
Right.
what that is?
Yeah, sure. So I try to from on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll lift weights I have a garage gym out in the backyard, and we'll lift from 6:30 to 7:30, just for an hour, 3 days a week. And depending on, like, if I'm trying to get ready for some match or contest, or if we're going to have I get 21 guys, we're going to have a contest at the end of November. So I'm working out toward that right now. But basically, I've been doing that since I graduated from college. Same sort of thing. Tuesdays, I may walk the dog for a little run. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Saturday, go on a walk. But mostly it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, lifting weights.
So you do have some cardio mixed in there.
Well, a lot of cardio built into lifting.
Oh, yeah.
Because we'll be so I'll try to do, like, your heart rate gets spiked to 150. It really gets pretty hard. If I train for like a half marathon or marathon, then I'll have to go heavy on cardio. But I try not to do that too much because I just don't enjoy it that much.
Well, I was a runner back in the day, and I hated every step of it. So
Yeah.
now I'm walking and headed toward crawling, I guess. No, I'm hanging in there, and you're certainly doing well. Talk with me a minute. Let's share a minute about if we always ask the question, how can we pray for you? We really are praying for you, but more specifically, we want to pray for you and your family. I want you to know that during the time I texted you, and during the time of the loss that you had, we were certainly lifting you up there. That is so unbelievably devastating. It's easy for me to say that, but you've experienced it.
Yeah.
How can we pray for you as we look toward the convention and beyond, and as you continue to be the pastor of that church?
Well, a couple of things. One is, recently we've just seen so many pastors, well-known pastors, fall. So you can pray just for my own personal holiness, walk with the Lord, that I would be protected and not do dumb things. You can pray that I don't say things that would reflect poorly on the Southern Baptist Convention or the gospel. I don't want to embarrass us. I'm afraid of doing that so much. I don't want to embarrass us. And I guess you can pray for just my own finding time to study. I'm traveling a whole lot more than I did before.
Yeah.
And so, I'm a homebody. I like to be home. And so that throws a wrench in me being my routine of being at home and reading from 8 to 10 every night. So pray just for my own study that our church I don't want our church to feel the effects of me being the president in a negative way.
Yeah. Well, that is so well stated.
Yeah.
And I would hope every president has that in the forefront of their thinking, but we're certainly appreciative of the fact that you have it there and you're willing to share. Well, folks, just in summary, we've been able to have an engaging conversation with our current president, Clint Pressley, who had some Alabama connections some years ago at Dolphin Way, and they are celebrating their 120th anniversary in November. I just did a video for that just a few minutes ago. We appreciate that about him. We appreciate his study and his leadership qualities, how he's developed a well-organized life, a disciplined life. And I might say that I agree with you about biographies and history. Now, you really lit me up there when you mentioned that. I think the best way to study leadership is through biographies. The best way to study history is biographies, because you can go into a life and then expand beyond every direction with that.
Yeah, why don't you give us a reading list, Rick? You read so many. Why don't you? I'd love to have one of those.
Well, this work is so different, organized. I've gone somewhere a lot. But I thoroughly enjoy reading those biographies. And recently, Teddy Roosevelt, one of my favorites.
Right, mine too.
I read the same thing over and over with him. But again, though, the bold leadership that he exercised, I may not have, if I had been there during the day, I may not have agreed with all of it. But Holiness, and he had America first in his attitude, wanted to be a global leader. In many ways, we'd have to credit him for turning the corner and getting us into the 20th century. We were a kind of sleepy regional power, if you will, and he transformed that with the Navy and otherwise. Also, I'd have to say that I enjoy reading about military leaders. My dad was in World War II, and I probably talk about that too much. He was on a B-17.
Yeah.
So therefore, I've gone through my third book by the same author in various aspects of World War II, and the gems of leadership there. You're not doing hagiography. When you do something that's good military history, it is giving the good and the bad and the best decisions and the worst decisions. And the military generals, I've learned a lot about the pros and cons. Everyone seems to have Patton on a pedestal, and I always have, but Patton had his he had his idiosyncrasies. And I think about Dwight David Eisenhower. The hardest thing he ever did in life was not being president. The hardest thing he ever did in life was managing the egos of the generals under him and the British leadership as well, including
Montgomery.
Lord Montgomery, but also Winston Churchill, who had to appease him some, but just how he grew in his leadership qualities.
All right.
Some people say military leaders don't make great presidents. That may be true. You look at Grant, it didn't go as well as Eisenhower. But in 1950s, America was at peace, and even though we had the Cold War gearing up, Eisenhower was a good leader, and he was not blind to the military-industrial complex. I could go on, but
yes, you could.
I applaud you on that, because I think that informs us in life right now. People have asked me, why do you like studying history? Well, I'd like to talk about something that's already done.
Right.
We're in the throes of things right now, and how is this going to come out?
Yeah.
You're making history as president, and it won't be a footnote. It'll be you'll certainly be right in the crux of our history making in these days. Well, Clint, it has been thoroughly enjoyable. I hope our listeners have been able to, will be able to tune in on this and understand, listeners, this is One Mission, the podcast, and we look forward to having others on. And we want to continue to pray for our president, Clint Pressley. Outstanding job he's doing, and we pray for wisdom in the days to come. God bless.
Thank you, Brother Ray. Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
God bless you.